All right, the Don't Hassle the Hoff podcast is back and better than ever. We are here tonight. I know we've only been doing podcasts, honestly, since pretty much for draft reviews for HSTL because I suck. As everyone who probably listens and is listening knows, I work a ton of hours and I just don't have time. But we have a special podcast tonight because we are going to be going over the Tecmo 2K Season 2 predictions. And lo and behold, we cannot do this without our fearless leader, War Machine. So War Machine is here with us. Welcome, man. How you doing?
What's going on, Hoff? Thanks for having me on.
So this is we're gonna run this a little bit differently. This is basically gonna almost be War Machine's show, and I'm gonna almost be the color guy, which is different for me, and I don't know how I'm gonna handle it, but I think we'll be fine, and I think we'll be good to go here. So without further ado, I'm gonna hand the reins over to War Machine, and I will be monitoring Twitch for comments to see if you guys have any questions or comments that we should comment on during the stream. And without further ado, War Machine, take it over, buddy.
Thanks, Hoff. Hey, guys, what's up? So for this podcast, I want to thank Hoff, first of all, for letting me come on and go over the Tecmo 2K. I know he's primarily been HSTL, but I think a lot of the HSTL guys are in this league, and I think a lot of people have given me positive feedback on the league. So I want to thank everybody that's in the league right now for a successful Season 1. So far. So with that, I do want to go over Season 1 champion Prime, give him a little kudos for his championship in Season 1. So before we get into the predictions, I kind of want to just go over and give him his props. So Prime was Season 1's first champion. He did go through a pretty tough field. So he did beat myself. He beat Nas, and he actually beat Brewdog in the championship. So it wasn't an easy field for him to conquer, but he did a tremendous job in the playoffs. I watched every game, especially in the Super Bowl. You know, Brewdog, who's a great player, just could not get a stop. Prime's offense was just too good. So Prime, I do want to give you your props. Congratulations on your Season 1 championship. It will be a tough field again for Season 2. So I did want to throw a little bit of incentive along the way for the league. So since Prime is the champion, and with Thunderdome likely coming very, very soon, I do want to bring the bounty concept into Season 2. So Prime will be the subject of Season 2's Prime bounty. So what that is essentially it'd be a $50 reward. And the way that you earn it is if you knock out Prime in the playoffs, you earn the $50 bounty. Now, if Prime doesn't make the playoffs, if he struggles this season, then the team who has beaten him in the regular season by the biggest margin of victory will earn the $50 bounty. So Prime will have a target on his back. I thought it'd be fun just to have this little incentive for the league. So Prime, hope you're ready. The league will be coming for you.
I just want to interject real quick. I'll be honest with you, I didn't follow along in the playoffs very well just because, as I said, I was working, 100 hours a week and what have you. But I will tell you, when Prime told me that he won and who he went through, which I believe was you, Nas, and Brewdog, right? War Machine?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's a murderer's row right there. Especially, I mean, got Nas, especially with how often they play each other, and Nas kind of had his number, in HSTL. So to go through that lineup there, you got to say you got to beat the best to be the best, and he definitely did that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. So with that, congrats, Prime. We'll get on now into Season 2. We just finished our draft. It took a little bit longer than I'd like, but we finally wrapped it up a couple days ago. So I kind of want to do a quick season and division prediction. So last season, for Season 1, I did have the predictions on the techmobile.org. I had a couple, graphics for each of the teams. So we're going to follow that similar format, but it'd just be easier for me to kind of talk through it instead of having to type out full analysis. So we're going to start with bronze. So we have Barletta, Big Red, the Mac, Madtown, and new owner Middle Doug in the bronze division. So Drake, surprisingly graduated and made it to the silver division. And Big Red, not surprisingly, finished in last place in silver and is now in the bronze
That
division.
was good. That was a good burn. I like that. Big Red, I love that one.
I mean, Big Red and I are cool. I mean, I just like busting his balls every once in a while. But all right, so getting into this, so the way I'm going to work this is I'm going to start from 5th place to 1st place, start from the bottom all the way to the top. So the team that I'm predicting to finish in last place in season 2 is Barletta. So Barletta. So before I actually get into like what I'm gonna go through his team, you'll notice in the bottom right hand side there's a BrewDog rating. So BrewDog has a spreadsheet that I think you just plug in the team's entire roster, and then it spits out like a percentage. I think everybody's seen this in HSTL before. So essentially, he puts in everybody's roster, and then it gives an overall percentage. And then so I listed that here with like the overall rank. So you'll notice here for Barletta, he came out at 32%, which is a 19th out of 20. So he came out with the second worst team if you just go through the overall ratings. So I'm predicting Barletta to finish in last at 4-10. Now his offense. So one of the big things that I dinged him for was really Baker Mayfield. So he's a 44-44 QB, and he took him in round 2. He was one of 2 owners that did that. And that really just put his team behind the 8 ball. If you look at his offense, he does have Zeke Elliott, who's obviously a stud at 63 MS. His receivers are kind of weak. Marshall's a little slow, good hands, and Locke is 44 MS with 44 reception. His defense, he doesn't have any linebackers that are manable. They're a bunch of 38 RP guys. He does have Marcus Peters at DB, who's like an Eric McMillan clone from OG ROM. So I did play Barletta in a couple of scrims today. He actually did beat me in one game, but that did not sway me in changing this. But Barletta should be able to run the ball. I think his offense might be okay. I just think if he can't run the ball, there's not much else he can do. So Hoff, looking at this, what do you think of his team? Just kind of quickly going through it.
Well, my favorite line I like to say with DBs is to just fast enough to be too slow, or just slow enough to be too whatever that line is. And Marcus Peters definitely fits into that. I agree. Baker Mayfield was a huge reach. Granted, I know guys feel like if you go below 44 PC, your team is screwed. I think I proved that with Jack Trudeau getting to the AFC Championship game in HSTL. That's not true. And also, just for everyone who's listening, I picked up my QB, I think in round the second to last round, who's a 44-38 guy. So just saying, I mean, if I could pick who was available at that spot that you put Baker instead and get a 44-38 guy, you probably would have done it. Maybe even a better wide receiver. So I'd agree with that. I do have a question, and I hope BrewDog is watching. If he's not, I'd like to talk to him. I'm curious how he does the ratings. Does he just put the whole ROM in that you are like because obviously you took some teams out? Does he just put them all in and that's how it calculates it, or I'm just curious how it actually works? But that's a question for a different day. Anyway, but that's how I feel. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So BrewDog, if you could just reply maybe in Discord or in the Twitch feed, that would be cool.
Yeah, he definitely. Oh yeah, sorry. Barletta said that this is an ouch, and that Zer tricked him with a Darnold pick, and that's pretty much. And that he's a bad passer and needs high PC, so he went for it. So the fact that Barletta is calling 44 PC high PC, I don't know what to say.
It's fine. I mean, Barletta's improving, so I think he's gonna do fine. I mean, I have to pick somebody in last place, and Miles per hour is out of the league, so I can't put him in last place like I did last season. So unfortunately, Barletta proved me wrong. We do play in week 2, so if you want to take it out in week 2, go for it.
Yeah.
So,
just quickly,
yep.
BrewDog is watching, and his response was, "I put all teams, but really only accounts for QB1, RB1, top 2 wide receivers, and your D." So just for everyone wondering how the basically PWR rankings, whatever you want to call it, DVOA, and this is basically BrewDog's version of DVOA. If you want to just know how that works, that's how he calculates it. Okay, let's go.
All right, moving on. So 4th place, we got Middle Doug. So Middle Doug is a new owner. He's replaced Miles. Now, Middle Doug, I don't have much information on him. We did play a couple TTL games, I believe, and he was a very tough player. Um, so, and looking at other standings, I mean, it seems like he's been doing pretty well, for somebody who's relatively new to online Tecmo. So I have him finishing at 6-8. He came out actually up in sixth place in Brewdog's rating, so at 64%. And I think I have a typo here for finish. But anyway, I have him in fourth place. Now, his offense, Alex Smith is one of the. So when I was doing all these ratings, there were a couple players that I just had a little fun with. Guys like Rob Gronkowski, those types of guys. So Alex Smith was also like a fun little player that I had when I was creating the ratings. He's a 25 MS quarterback, but he has the Dave Craig 25 PS and a 56 PC. So he went around too. It'll be interesting to see how he is handled by Middle Doug. He got James Conner, 50 MS running back, solid pick. And then he has two solid receivers in Alshon Jeffrey and Jordan Reed at tight end. Now on defense, so in round one, Middle Doug actually took one of the high combos that I had was Clay Matthews and Tramon Williams. So Matthews is 50 RP, 69 HP, and Tramon Williams is a 50 RP, but 56 INT. He did pass on maybe some elite individual players to take the combo. But I think he made out pretty well, like looking at his team. I mean, his offense seems to be pretty good. Alex Smith obviously is going to be interesting to see, how he's handled with those attributes. So and he also has the D line from New Orleans, who has a big HP guy. I think it's Cameron Jordan. Middle Dog, fourth place. I think, being a newer player was hard to kind of gauge him. So I kind of put him, in fourth place. I like this team better than Barletti's. So I put him ahead. So with that, so Hoff, what are your thoughts on Middle Dog? And do you like his team better than Barletti's?
Oh, I love this. I love this team actually. I mean, I love the key players of this team. Honestly, I think he's got it all. But I mean, that Alex Smith pick, man, that is going to come back to haunt him. That could single-handedly ruin his season. It's not worth it for the 25 MS. I mean, 31 PS is tough. 25 PS is even worse. It's like, what is it? I think that's Rich Gannon. I think Rich Gannon in the OG ROM is that. So I mean, this is a good team aside from that, and that's a shame. His DL and Clay Matthews will blow up some offensive lines if people don't align properly. But I think that this is a decent team. You kind of wish that his DB he had some higher interception DBs, but I mean, having above average guys is good. A couple of comments here from Twitch. Gats is saying you have a very good voice, you lucky bastard. So War, congratulations. and and that's pretty much. And the Mac is basically saying that PS can be deadly. I don't know if he means that in a good way or a bad way.
I know. That can go either way, right?
Yeah, it's basically Dave Craig moonballs. It's like Rice Craig. So except there's no, honestly, Jeffrey is not fast enough for that. He would have done better if he was gonna moonball. He would have done better with a faster guy. But I agree with you. This team is definitely better than Barletti's. So we can move on. Well, hold on. Actually, going back real quick, I have no idea how Brewdog ranked this team sixth because that QB pick should have dropped it. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Third place. I have the Mac. So I think this is an older version that I had of these because this is all inverted, but whatever. Anyways, the Mac I have coming in third place. So he has Drew Brees, obviously a stud. He was with Darth RockMan last season, and RockMan made a pretty deep run. Marshawn Lynch. So Marshawn Lynch came with Keith Smith, who's a fullback, who's actually 94 HP. So in the second round, he got, an 88 HP guy in Marshawn Lynch and Keith Smith at 94 HP. So they were a powerful duo. He has another 44 MS running back in Latavius. T.Y. Hilton, 56 MS, 63 reception, and Randall Cobb, who's a solid wide receiver too. So his offense is really pretty incredible. I think it's going to be tough to stop. I mean, it's definitely more balanced than his team was last season when he had Patrick Mahomes. But the problem here really is defense. His best defensive back is essentially like a Bobby Humphrey and OG Rom kind of player, 38 RP, 56 INT. And his best linebacker is like a James Francis clone, 44 RP, 69 HP. really nobody to really man at all. So I think that's really going to hurt him. It's kind of like Speed's team in HSTL where, he really has no defense. And I think Speed won 2 games, I think, all season. So I think he's going to score the ball, but I think if he gets stopped, he's going to have no chance of stopping other people. And I think he made maybe a couple mistakes early on where he passed on maybe a solid defender to get more offense. He came in 15th in Brewdog's overall rating. But I think he has enough offense, and he's been playing really well. He had a great season in HSTL. He's been playing well, so I think he might be able to, pull through. But I think he might finish in 3rd place, I think, this season. What do you think?
Yep, I would agree. I had Burfict last season as my primary manable linebacker, and he's really not that manable. He just seems slow. I would say you're right, his defense, unless he is Gats, can't stop anybody. Because for some reason Gats I feel like can just stop anybody with any defender. But his offense should be unstoppable. The 50 MS and the 44 MS running back, he can run a 2 running back system. And honestly, those speeds should play up because everyone is going to be picking pass because of the pass offense he has. So I think he might score a lot of points if he does it right. Even if he just back and bees it, he'll score a lot of points. But I don't think he's going to get a single stop unless someone gets an interception. A couple of quick things from the Twitch stream. Brewdog says, based on my question about Alex Smith, that the sheet doesn't do well with extremes, so that makes a lot of sense, and that he wants to add the ability to be jump picked or not into his calculation. And then the Mac, who we are on right now, is saying that we are forgetting his X factor, Peterman, and he should be on the key players list.
Yeah.
So
Nathan Peterman is a legend in this league. For those that didn't see it, there's a video in the forums. Peterman actually won a game for him in overtime on a JJ. It was pretty impressive. He beat player 121, which might have knocked player out of the playoffs. Really, I think player was competing for that.
Was Peterman an average or good or excellent? Because how did that happen? Was he named 19 PC?
Yeah, he was 19 PC. I think he was average. Matt could probably confirm what that was. I think Mahomes might have gotten injured. I'm not sure, or he might have just thrown him in. Funny, but it actually worked for him, and he ended up winning the game. So, unfortunately, if Peterman is not in the league next year, he might not be, in 2K anymore. But I may try to find a way to sneak him in somehow.
He's on the Raiders, signed to a futures contract, so we're good.
I saw that.
Quick note from Middle Doug: his offense, he said, is basically going to be bomb or die. Just so you know.
Nice.
Okay, we can. Oh, and he said Mahomes was injured, and that's why Peterman was in. So
okay.
All right,
Hoff, before we move on, so do you like the Max team better than Middle Doug's team? Just to kind of see who you like better.
Oh, Middle Doug was the one we just had. Yeah, yes, I do. I think that, kind of like, and you've kind of taught me the strategy, or is that just kind of keep picking offense until you need a little bit on defense. And I wish he had one manable guy on defense. If he just had one, I'd feel better about it. But I mean, if he plays his offense correctly, literally, unless he has a fumble, he should never get stopped. He literally should never get stopped. So we'll see how this goes. I don't know. I think the balance of Middle Doug's team might attract me more a tiny bit than this team. I probably prefer Middle Doug's team, but I mean, obviously, I prefer this. I prefer this offense. I wish he had higher receptions though. Like I wish he had gotten a stud receiver to get some CCs, because 63 is great, but it's not a ton. So.
Yeah, I think he might have passed on Michael Thomas, who was 50 MS, 75 reception. Maybe losing that speed might have been better to get that 75 reception just to CC factor.
He must have passed on Devontae Adams, because I got Devontae Adams at 50-69 in like round 5 or round 4. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe he was still on the board. So, but
okay. All right, we'll move on. So those are 3 teams. So that means we're down to Big Red and Madtown Spliff Stars. So I got second place. I got coming up Madtown. All right, so Madtown might have surprised everybody. So he took Harrison Smith, number 1 overall. Now he's sort of like a Rod Woodson, David Fulcher clone. He's sort of like a hybrid of those two. His interceptions are low with 63 int for number 1 pick, but he's super fast, 56 RP, 75 hitting power, pretty much a one-man defense. So I got to give him credit for having the balls to do that, for passing on the quarterbacks. He had Jalen Ramsey last season and he actually did really well with him from what I've seen. So I think he's going to be able to handle Harrison Smith just as well. On offense, he has Marcus Mariota. So he's kind of like he's 31 MS, 31 PS, 44 PC. He's kind of like Vinny, but with less PC. Kerryon Johnson, 44 MS running back. Now he had him last season, and for those that don't know, Matt Town's a great tapper, and I think Johnson was like up there in rushing for most of the season. So he almost led the league in rushing with a 44 MS running back. Probably like his tapping aided with that. But then getting Mike Evans, who's a stud receiver. Greg Olson is also pretty good as a tight end. So his offense, I think, should be good. I mean, Mariota, the PS might be a little scary, but I think with his legs, I mean, he should be able to move the ball. As far as the rest of his defense, I mean, Brent Grimes, has some speed, 44 RP. Adoree Jackson has some speed, so he has some speed at DB. He doesn't have much from like the linebacking core. Arakpo is his best linebacker, who is a 38 RP guy. So I think some teams like maybe like Barletta should be able to run against him with Elliott. So in Brewdog's ratings, he came in 12th of 20 at 47%. So I mean, I think his team might not stack up, with the others. I just liked what I saw from Matt Town last season. I liked the way he handled his fast DB, and I think with his tapping and with Mariota, I think he should be able to compete. So I put him in second place. What do you think?
I would say I agree with you. I would just call. I mean, the 31 MS for Marcus Mariota, he should be doing a lot of scrambling. I almost feel like Mariota should have more rushes on the team than Kerryon Johnson, to be honest with you, because I feel like over half his pass plays he'll be scrambling. I'd say though that be careful with the 31 PS. I had Tim Rosenbach one season in HSTL, and I had Flipper Anderson as my primary wide receiver, who is I think just as fast as Mike Evans. He's like 56, 75, and I could not get Flipper the ball except for one game. So it's really tough to deal with the 31 PS, and you just have to really just kind of chuck it up there. And I don't care, and maybe Brew agrees with me, maybe he doesn't, but I feel like PS affects your PC because literally those lower PS guys just throw the ball all over the place. No matter, I mean, Craig, if you ever had Craig in a season, just throws the ball all over the place, no matter what his PC is. So I would just say, yeah, but I would agree. I don't think Harrison Smith is worth the first overall pick. I think if he was 69 or even 75 INT, absolutely. But at 63, it's basically like picking Rod Woodson first, except maybe I think he's got 2 ticks more of HP. And it's not for me, but it still is a pretty beastly team, regardless, though.
Yeah, I think I like the balance of his team. I think, given what I saw last season, I think he should be able to do well.
Yeah, he's gonna be able to blow up pretty much any blocker on the team unless it's a tight end or a higher HP running back with Harrison Smith. That's a key note here. Like for example, he doesn't have any linebackers, but if they're doing like the run 2 halfback dive or even the run 4 halfback, running back 2 dive, and the leading running back is low HP, he's just going to blow up that first guy and go tackle him. And with his tapping ability, it might be actually end up being really tough to run at him. So even though he doesn't have the linebacker help, that's a good note to have.
Yeah. All right, cool. So that means the team that I have winning the division is Big Red. As much as it pains me to do this, I do have to put Big Red in first place. I thought he had a great draft. He picked second overall. And he took Russell Wilson, who was 25 MS, 44 PS, 63 PC. He did pass on Carson Wentz. I think maybe those two, probably neck and neck as far as, the top quarterback. For me personally, I love having the speed at quarterback. I like the Wilson pick over Wentz. He got a 44 MS running back, which, is solid. But he did get DeAndre Hopkins, who's a beast, as well as Jimmy Graham at tight end. So his offense, I think, is going to be studly. His defense, he took Jimmy Smith, who's sort of like a Manny Hendricks DB in round 3. I wasn't crazy about that when he did it, given what was there. But he did get Darby, who's a solid drone, and they got the 50 RP linebacker. So his team, I mean, I think it's up there. I mean, but I think like with his skill, I mean, I think he talks a big game, doesn't really back it up, but I think he's a good player, and I think going down to bronze, I think might help his confidence, and I think he might be able to pull this out. So he came up in 8th place in Brewdog's ratings, 58%, and I have him winning the division and going back into silver.
Uh,
Thoughts?
I'd say I agree with you. Russell Wilson's a beast. That's a great. I mean, he's probably one of my favorite quarterbacks in this draft, just because of his speed. And 40. Everyone's used to 44 passing speed in the PC. I'd say his PC might even be able to be a little higher, personally. But regardless, the 44 MS will keep everyone honest. I mean, Hopkins is a beast. And Graham, he could probably put Graham at wide receiver 2, and then throw like maybe a running back at tight end instead. And then also, key note here, because his fastest DB he only has 44 interception, he probably has lower interception DBs. I think you said that. So he can put Levante David, since he doesn't have high HP, he doesn't have to necessarily be whatever. He can use him as a nickel guy a lot to kind of help. So, I mean, this is a very solid team. I will tell you, though, there's a lot of venom being spewed in the Twitch chat because everyone is just pissed off that you put Big Red first. And RockMan has officially lost faith in everything that has been said. And Drake, I think 20 messages ago said, "I can't believe you did this." So
I lost all credibility, huh?
yeah,
Years of building it all up is all in one shot.
I mean, Rockman basically is basically saying you shot your shot, and he just doesn't like it. So, in all seriousness, though, I think that between the player and the team, this should be fine. He might be susceptible to some CCs against some of his opponents. He's playing twice, but other than that, I think as long as he knows when to scramble, keeps people honest with the run and what have you, and just kind of does them back and beat to Hopkins, he should be fine.
Yeah, I agree. So just to recap, we got Big Red winning the division, Matt Town in second, Mac, Middle Doug, and Barletta to follow. So that concludes the bronze portion of this. So now we're going to move on to silver. All right, so silver, you had a comment, Hoff?
No, I was just kind of breathing and wondering, did you put Middle Doug below the Mac because of how the Mac just played in HSTL, or just because because I mean, I think Middle Doug's team is better, so I'm kind of curious why you would not flip those two.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Mac has been playing well. His offense is great. And with Middle Doug sort of an unknown, at least to me, I kind of just went with the Mac with his experience. And with our teams being close, I just went with the better quarterback.
Sure. I do have one other question. Where the hell did you get these player images from? Because they're awesome.
Thanks. No, I mean, I just did a Google search, just do the player's name and then cartoon, and usually they pop up.
I mean, if no one sees the detail in this by chance, if you look at Andy Dalton on the top, there actually is like a Bengal claw ripping his jersey. I don't know if anyone even notices that. And you can actually, if you look at Larry Fitzgerald on the bottom right, you can see his dreads. So this point being, if you aren't paying attention to these, you should be. And Rockman is giving you props and told me I suck as a commissioner in HSTL because I don't do this. So anyway.
Just nerding it out, that's all. All right, so for silver, 5th place, Drake. So he came in 4th place in the overall rating. He has Trubisky at quarterback, who's 19 MS, 38 PC. David Johnson was a steal. I mean, he got him, I think, right after my pick. So I think it might have been like 16 or 17 in that range at 63 MS. Juju Schuster at 56 MS, and Kelsey. So his offense is really good. I mean, Trubisky is going to be the big key here. He did have Lamar Jackson last season, who was, I think, 31 PC, if I remember correctly, but he was 31 MS. So I think that's going to be a big difference when it comes to quarterback play. That's a big drop off. On defense, Chris Harris, he has the Dion rating. He has a solid drone in William Jackson. He doesn't have much of linebacking support. Mark Barron is sort of like a poor man's Gary Reasons. He has like one notch less of interception. And then the Jacksonville D line, which I think has Calais Campbell. It pains me to say Drake's a great guy. He's helped me significantly with the league and getting the website up. I just think, last year, might have been an aberration, and I think he's gonna, find his way back down. So I actually have the two guys that went up and down after last season are going and going to switch spots again. So what are your thoughts?
I'd say that, I was eyeing Trubisky when I was playing the QB roulette towards the end there, and then he took him without me even paying attention. I definitely think Johnson was a steal. I don't think you really need the higher reception, so Schuster will be fine. Kelsey, maybe just a slower version, slower guy to kind of throw it to on the other side. I think Brewdog had him has his team ranked so high because of his defense. I mean, he's got 356 interception guys, with Chris Harris leading the way. So, or, I mean, two. I think that's got to be it. I don't think it's a bad team, but I'm just kind of curious why Brewdog's ratings would rank it so high, specifically with Trubisky and Schuster being the highest reception, or I guess because Kelsey is, that's why. So basically, specifically with Trubisky, I just feel like maybe the 38 PC might have dragged it down a little bit. But great drafting by Drake. He's pretty pissed off that you did not give him any love, and he said he's never helping you with a site ever again. I'm just kidding. He didn't say that. That was me. But
yeah, I love Drake. And we'll get to the other teams in a bit, but I think his team is probably up there. I just think the other players had some equal teams, and I just think they're gonna have better seasons. So all right, so sorry Drake, 5th place, and moving on to 4th place we got Oren Combs. So Oren finished 7-7 last season, just missed out on the playoffs. So he came up 13th in the overall rating from Brewdog. His offense, he has Derek Carr, who's kind of like Ken O'Brien with a little bit more PS. Dalvin Cook, 50 MS running back. And he took Larry Fitzgerald in round 3, who was a 38 MS, 81 reception guy. So according to him, from what I saw on Discord, he was sort of griping about Fitzgerald in scrimmages. He's just not fast enough. The 81 receptions are nice, but I think there might have been better receivers there that he could have taken. So I thought Fitzgerald might have been a slight reach. I kind of thought he might go in like round 4 or 5, but he went, in the middle of round 3. On defense, his first pick was Xavier Rhodes, who's a stud, 56 RP, 69 interception. Can't go wrong there. Bruce Irvin is a solid linebacker drone, 69 HP, so he can probably shift him around against weak old lines and get some extra pressure. And he also has Carolina's, defensive line, who's pretty studly as well. So I like Arn. I think his team is solid. I mean, he has, Cook at 50 MS. I think with his tapping, it's going to, trouble for defenses. So what do you think?
I think he's going to be doing a lot of running, honestly. I think that, Fitzgerald makes no sense with the PC he has. Fitzgerald should have gone to a team that has a higher PC QB where they could do a whole bunch of CCs, especially with his speed. I mean, you look at like Derek Carr's kind of like a Jay Schrader, and all those higher PS guys. I mean, Brew will tell you nonstop that those higher PS guys, need faster people for burn routes. So to not have that, if he's behind in games, he might end up even putting Dalvin Cook at wide receiver. So I mean, I think he's going to be running a lot, even more than usual, and maybe doing a little bit of scrambling, and he's just have to pick his spots. But on defense, he's fine. He's got all the parts you need. So I mean, that's great. But I don't like that wide receiver pick at all. I think it's going to severely hamper his pass game because you're not going to get a whole bunch of CCs. I mean, you'll get a little, but not a whole bunch of CCs with Derek Carr, and the whole JJ game is kind of weird with the 63 PS. So
yeah, I agree. I think his team. I think this is more of like the skill. I think Drake has a better team, but I think Arn had some success last season against some tougher competition. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt and put him ahead. So do you like Drake's team better than Arn's? Just looking through these two teams.
I think so. I think I do, definitely. I mean, obviously the PC of Trubisky could be his downfall, but something we didn't mention is that Arn's defense could blow up some lines because he's got 269 HP guys and a 63 HP guy, so he could do some work there. I mean, I think his defense is kind of studly from a key player standpoint. It's just, so I think I do like Drake's a little bit better, but I think if you compare the players, Arn's a better player, so I think that's why Arn will probably finish higher.
Yeah, I will say that. So Tre'Davious White, who's a Buffalo DB, who's sort of like an Eric McMillan and OG Ram, he actually led the league in interceptions with 11. So Arn just did great with a DB. So imagine, even a more souped up version of that, him manning him. So I think that was one of the reasons why I was sort of, maybe a little bit blinded by what I saw last season,
A couple
and
key
having Rhodes, who's go
Yeah,
ahead.
a couple keynotes. Drake says he beat him handily last season. Just for Drake as well, I beat him 21-0 during the regular season, and unfortunately, I gave away my War Games tourney game to him when I should have thrown the ball instead of trying to scramble into the end zone. Damn it! But I Josh Holtzbauered that one from Tundra Bowl. But anyway, so we can move on.
Okay, all right. So we got third place. We got player 121. So player did what I usually tell newer guys if they ask me for advice drafts. You know, Drake player went all defense with his first 3 picks. So I think he took Kevin Byard, who's the Richard Johnson clone. He took Von Miller, who was like DT and LT, and then Terrell Sugg, I think, was his 3rd-round pick. So it was really all defense. And I was kind of thinking to myself, he's really going to be screwed in offense. But player really got so many good values later on. Like for instance, Andy Dalton, 44-44. He went, I think, in round 6 or 7. I don't recall what round it was. Meanwhile, 2 quarterbacks, the same attributes, went in round 2. He got Lamar Miller as a last 50 MS running back. That was a steal for him. And then he got Golden Tate, who's a 44 MS, 69 reception, receiver. So he kind of made up for his all defense approach. He got a lot of good values later. So I think he had a really good draft, and he came out 5th in Brewdog's overall ratings. I have him at 7-7 in 3rd place. So what do you think?
This team is sick. I don't know how you have them at 7-7. I mean, Player's a decent player. He's going to have some tap-off matches with Arn, where the two of them are going to, tap to holy hell. This team is beastly. I don't necessarily agree with this where he finishes on this. I mean, this is obviously you might want to ding him a little bit for having a slower wide receiver. You wish he might have had like a 50 or 56 MS guy. But I mean, looking at this, the only thing I can knock him on is not having a faster wide receiver. Like this team to me is beast, and with a decent player behind it, who keep in mind just did really well in HSTL out in the, or did he do well out in the? Yeah, he did. He's in
Oh
the,
yeah, for sure.
yeah, in that Murderers Row division of Prime, Nas, and him. Granted, Prime had a down year, and Drake's out there too, but. I don't know. I would say that this. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I have to look at the other. I have not looked at this PowerPoint, just so everyone knows. Like, I have not seen this yet. So maybe coming up, we'll see why. But this, to me, by far, so what we've seen so far, this is the best team we've seen so far.
No, I agree, and I think when you see the next 2 teams, I think you might understand it a little bit more, just given some of the players on those teams. So let's move on to who I have coming in 2nd place. We got Jesus coming in 2nd. So he got Tom Brady. So Brady kind of fell, probably because of 6 MS. But Jesus scooped him up. And he has AJ Green at receiver. So that combination right there is just going to be pretty sick. He got Rob Gronkowski in the New England offensive line, and then 2 44 MS running backs. With Jesus is tapping, that's like 50 MS. And he can play conditions, if one goes into good. So his offense, I think, is really going to be incredible. His defense, now he doesn't have like super studs on defense, but looking at his DB, I mean, he has Malcolm Butler, who's, solid defensive back. He has 2 good linebackers that have some HP. And then his defensive line, he has Cincinnati defensive line. And I don't even have this on this sheet here. He also has DJ Swearinger, who's a safety. He came with Ryan Kerrigan, who's also 69 HP. So he has a lot of hitting power on defense. And you can see in Brewdog's overall ratings, he came in number 1 overall. So, I put him in 2nd place in this division, given that his team is just so strong.
I would agree. I'd agree with that. This is a very strong team. I am curious. People in the stream are saying it too. I almost wish that you had OL, the offensive line, in here as well, just because, I mean, people are asking if he has a good offensive line to protect Brady's 6 MS or not. So I don't know if he does or doesn't, but obviously, in the OG ROM that affects it. So you can answer that in a second. But kind of going down the list, I mean, he's got all the pieces here for good. I mean, we probably should have said it about Arn's team too with those 2 higher HP linebackers. I mean, Jesus is going to blow up lines all over the place. I mean, he's basically going to have 4 63 HP or higher guys out of 5 sitting there on the defensive line. So he's going to be blowing people up left and right. Malcolm Butler is a little slow. I would just knock him a tiny bit for that. I wish he had a 50 RP guy instead, but tomato tomato. And I think that this is a really good team. I think he's going to be back and being it a lot, with from Brady to Green. I really do. So
Yeah, as far as offensive line goes, so they're probably I want to say they're probably middle of the pack. I had them last season. I think they might have like one really weak guy and the rest are like 50 and above. So it's not a bad offensive line. It's a pretty
oh yeah, you're
decent
right
one.
because that's New England offensive Ryan. So they do have
Yeah.
138. They have 138 HP guy, but I think that this is going to be interesting. He can run the two running back offense too, or play conditions or whatever he wants to do, and it's going to be something for those of you listening. I actually, when I was looking at offensive lines, I asked War Machine if Gronk was worth it, and I'd love for you, War, to tell everyone else what you thought of Gronk by having him for a season.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was a little bit underwhelming for me. I think I was expecting a little bit more, but I think there was a lot of defensive players that have HP, so that the 88 HP really didn't really help at all with popcorning. I actually ran when I was testing out the ROM when we were working on the website, kind of see if there were any issues with generating ROMs. I threw in like a preseason game. It was New England against some team, and the computer threw a pass to Gronk, and he literally popcorned like 3 or 4 guys. And I saw that, and I just fell in love with it. And I was like, shit, I got to get that on my team. But when the season came around, it must have been some really bad team that had low HP because he maybe popcorned 1 or 2 guys all season. And with the 56 reception, it's not like he was really helpful as far as getting some CCs or with the pass catching. So to me, it wasn't worth it. Jesus was talking to me a little bit in the draft, and I kind of told him the similar things about that. But I think he just kind of like wanted to go with an all jumbo type of team. So yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I'd agree. I appreciate that, and I think that he's going to do well. I think honestly, when all else fails, it's just going to be a whole lot of Brady to AJ Green.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. So with that, team I have winning the title or the division title is Tadeos. So for those that haven't watched streams, Tadeos is a very entertaining streamer. I hope people that don't follow him because whether he's winning or losing, it's just entertainment all around. And unfortunately for this season in 2K, he just got the worst luck I think I've seen anybody have in a season. I think he lost LaShawn McCoy, I think 3 times. And they were all like early in the game, like literally like first possession type of injuries. His quarterback was just, screwing him all over the place and with fumbles. So I think, Tadeos is a really great player. So having him in this division, this is really more of a skill kind of thing. And having Carson Wentz, who might be one of the best quarterbacks on the ROM at 19 MS and 69 PC. I mean, I think a great player like him having Carson Wentz, I think, is really incredible. He got Michael Thomas, who's 75 reception receiver. And then he has 2 44 MS running backs, which is, fine with his tapping ability. So on offense, I mean, he should be, pretty much unstoppable, I think, given the players that he has on his roster. And then on defense, he had last season's interception leader, Trey White, 44 RP, 63 interception. And then he has Anthony Barr, who's a 50 RP linebacker. So, he does have a solid drone in Dix with 56. That should be 56 INT, not HP. And then on defensive line, he has, I think, DeMarcus Lawrence is on that line with the 69 HP. So I love this team. I think it fits him well. And I think with his skill, I think, he should be able to win this division. And he did come out of third in the overall rating from Brewdog.
Yeah, this is a great team. His offense is great. The 44 MS will play up because of the passing game and his tapping in general. Although he seems to be in a whole division of tappers, except for Drake. So I mean, there's going to be a whole bunch of. Tadeos might be losing most of these taps against Jesus and Arn, to be honest with you. But this team's great. The Tre'Davious White just fast enough to be too slow. Syndrome there, and I know Tadeos knows all about that. We've said it like nonstop to each other. So I'd say that that might affect his defensive ability a little bit. He'll probably be manning Barr a lot and nickel, I would say, because of 31 INT, and I think that'll help a little bit. But this is a pretty good team that I think will do well. Although I think that of those top three players in this division, I just think they're gonna be closer. Maybe like two of them finishing in the same record, like more like the 8-8, or is it 14 games? Like so the 7-7, 8-6. Like I just think that they're gonna finish closer than you have them spread out a little bit. Personally, I think Tadeos is good. I think they're all comparable potentially in being good in a sense. So I will say that. But they're saying it in the stream, and I got to say it out loud here now too, that this silver division can draft. Holy hell! Like they can literally draft these teams that we just saw were just ridiculous. And it's crazy. I feel like I suck. I feel like I should just like hire. I feel like I should hire one of them to run my draft for me because this was nuts.
Well, I mean, it is kind of easy when you have like Carson Wentz and Tom Brady fall in your lap. So it's tougher for guys that might have like finished with comparable records, but kind of got screwed with the lottery. So I think it was a matter of those guys just landing some of those quarterbacks, and then they got great values later on as well. But I agree.
Brewdog just confirmed. He said it was really helped having a top pick in this draft. So for what it's worth, for what it's worth, I think I finished with the same record as Tadeos, and I think I picked like much further down than he was. I think, but I don't know for sure. But anyway, we can.
I think.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
No, just to recap. So I got Tadeos winning the division. Jesus, second player to follow. I think those three, as like we've all seen the teams, I think are probably a cut above the other two. But I think they're going to beat each other up a lot. So I think there might be some closer records, like you said, and then Arncombe and then Drake to wrap it up.
Okay? Yeah, I mean, I could totally see those four guys splitting all their games with each other, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay.
All right, let's move on up to the gold. All right, so in the gold, we got you, Hoff. We got Prime, the league champion. RockMan, who got out of his 500 slump. Tecmo Bo, who was demoted from Platinum. And then Zur, who was in the gold last season. So there's two new owners in this division. So I think, having Tecmo Bo come in here and having Prime in this division makes this a really tough division for Hoff, Zur, and RockMan. So we'll get into who I think will be finishing in last place.
I gotta say real quick before you go on here. How is it that the Super Bowl winner does not immediately go to gold, no matter what division they're from, or the highest platinum? I know it doesn't work with the mechanism of moving people around, but shouldn't the Super Bowl winner automatically have to move up to the top division?
I mean, that's a good point. We can revisit that, but I think I just kept it where division winner just to make it easier for myself. But it's something we can consider for future seasons.
Yeah, just curious why I have to have the defending Super Bowl champion in my division. That's all I was saying. Plus Tecmo Bo, who honestly just had a piss poor season last season, who just usually smokes everybody anyway. I mean, if you guys saw it, for those of you who aren't in HSTL, if you've seen what Tecmo Bo just did this past season in HSTL in a very hard division, going 14-2, like just crazy. Okay, we can go on.
Okay. All right, so I got Zur finishing in last place. I love Zur. I know Zur is a polarizing figure in our community. But, Zur has a typical team he likes to put together, and he finds success with it. So he kind of went to the well again with the back and B type of team. He took Antonio Brown with his first-round pick. I think it might have been 8 overall or 9 overall. So, thinking about that, that's like somebody taking – Andre Rison, I guess maybe with pick 13 or 14 in HSTL draft. So it was kind of early, when you consider, the type of player Brown is. I mean, he's a stud. But he got him in round 1. And then the huge reach in Sam Darnold in round 2. I think he just had a panic attack and was concerned he wasn't going to get his 44 guy. But he took him in round 2, which really, was surprising. And then when, Andy Dalton goes in round 7, it just kind of makes that look even worse. TJ Yeldon is a 44 MS running back, but that's it. That's all he has on offense. So you could expect Zur to just kind of back and be it all season. It works for him. I think it's a style that he's adopted over the years, and he has success with it. So you can't really argue with success. On defense, doesn't have much interceptions. He has Malcolm Jenkins, who's like an Eric Allen type of player. Witherspoon is a solid drone. Brandon Graham is a 50 RP linebacker, so you can put him at LB4 and prevent the run too for most teams. And then Woodyard is a solid linebacker drone. So, I mean, I'm not crazy about the defense. The offense is one-dimensional. I mean, it works for him. He came in dead last in Brewdog's ratings at 30%. So, I think given the makeup of his team, I followed suit and gave him like the worst record in the division. What do you think?
Yeah, this team sucks. He literally just he dedicated his whole draft to being able to back and be it with a 44-44 guy and a fast high reception receiver, and that's really all he wanted to do. He dedicated so much time to it that he could have gotten a better. He could have skipped it, Sam Darnold, which I think he took in round 2. Could have gotten a better DB, and it's just, I mean, don't get me wrong, 50 RP and a DB is fine, but it's just Zer's used to having a higher interception where he can. So I mean, it's not going to do much, for him in a turnover standpoint. So I mean, if if Darnold has a bad day, which everyone knows, I mean, everyone has had Whiskey Wade, have a terrible day. And I'll tell you that, like, if Darnold has a bad day, he's going to lose. There's no way Zer is going to win whatsoever without back and being it, literally the whole time. I can see him back and being it 75% of the time. And you know what? And it's going to make me hate playing him twice a season, simply because, A, I hate back and being in the first place, even though sometimes I have to do it. Everyone does. But B, like someone who does it every single play. And then B, because of the lag hacks. I mean, you should have a key player here and have a line for lag hacks. because you're missing the lag hacks, and then maybe a key detriment being Zerd. So I think that's missing as well. But if you could actually just do that, that would be better. So
no, I know that's great. I think if there's anybody in the league that's sort of like on the cusp of being reaped, and they play Zer, I think he's just going to put him over the top. And I think it's going to be so frustrating to play him, and I think he's on my schedule this season. And I'm just gonna hate him for it. He's such a nice guy, but I'm gonna want to just like strangle him, just by playing him. So we'll see how it works. He's had success with it. We'll see if it works in 2K.
Yeah, key note from the Twitch chat is that the Mac is checking out Antonio Brown's behind in this picture. Just so you know.
That's work. Yep. All right. So 4th place, RockMan. Now RockMan had a great season last year. He had the Drew Brees, DeAndre Hopkins connection. He had Eric Berry as well, who's a fast defender. Now he picked, I think, second last in this draft, and like Brewdog said, I think picking up front this season might have been the benefit for those up front, and unfortunately for the ones in the back, had a bit of a struggle with the draft. So he took Tyreek Hill, I think, with his first pick. Who is a 69 MS, 50 reception guy. I mean, he's crazy fast. And they took Eric Weddle, who's a great defensive back. But just looking at his defense, there's only 2 lines there, and there was nobody else I could find on defense that's really worthy of being a key player. So he's going to be a one-man defense. Now Alonzo is 38 interception, so he's kind of like Darryl Talley with more interception. And with Eric Weddle, I mean, that might be enough, but I think against the run, he's going to struggle. And then on offense, I mean, he took Blake Bortles, who Zer, I think, did well with him last season. And I think he actually might be 31. I think that's a typo there. So Bortles to Tyreek Hill, I mean, he has the PS to get it to Hill, but it's just going to be, I think, a struggle to move the ball. He has Lindsey, who's a 50 MS running back, and then Julian Edelman, who was a high reception, but a little slower receiver. So he came out 17th, and Brewdog's ratings at 40%. What are your thoughts on this team?
Yeah, this is definitely a one-man defense. I'm just not sure RockMan can play with a one-man defense. I'm not positive that he's able to do that. Like, he's going to have to man Weddle pretty much every single play. He could probably take Alonzo and run him as a nickel if he wants to, but having him one tick below, if he was 44 interception, I'd be a little bit happier with it, like Tally, but he's not. So, I mean, honestly, it's the Weddle show on D, the one-man D, which might have he might have some trouble stopping the run specifically. And on offense, dude, Zer had a terrible season with Blake Bortles. I mean, you saw my 3 games versus him. He couldn't do anything. And it's not like I had the best defense in the league either. From a player standpoint, it's just, he's going to have to do some quick strikes to Hill and what have you. But other than that, I mean, if he thinks he's going to back and beat it a little bit and do some bombs to Hill with that 63 PS and a 38 PC, he's got nothing coming. I think his bread and butter, honestly, is going to be scrambling. He's going to have to do a whole bunch of scrambling with Bortles. Really just hope that the deep guy that Hill isn't covered, and that the man guy has to go out and cover Hill and just do a whole bunch of scrambling. With his tapping ability, it'll probably help. But I would think that I'll be honest. I mean, this is basically the team that RockMan has built the last 2 seasons HSTL when it comes to like the high PS, low PC QB. But usually he has faster running backs, so I don't know if Lindsey is fast enough to really mask how bad Bortles really is at 31 PC. Which you're right, it was a typo. So I would say that, and Brewdog actually is agreeing with me in the Twitch chat, that 56 MS running back would have made this team go, but 50 is just too slow. So I know that one tick seems like nothing, but I think it matters. So I think you're right. I think RockMan's going to have some issues here with this team, to be honest with you. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll probably be like fighting for the last playoff spot. Maybe a few breaks here and there, I think might push him to the playoffs if possible, but I just don't see it. I think Bortles is going to end up screwing him in the end, especially with Tyreek. I mean, he's such a fun player to own, and you're going to want to just throw it to him like on burn routes. But he's going to have those throws where he's going to short it, or he's going to like throw it, offline. And it's going to be an interception. So that might be a bit of a detriment having somebody so fast at receiver. You're going to want to take advantage of it. And I think Player had Joe Flacco last season, who was, I think, 75 passing speed, 44 PC. And I think he said he just struggled with that connection. So Bortles is much worse. So, RockMan may be careful a little bit with that.
Bortles is Jay Schrader with MS. That's basically what he is. So, RockMan is actually saying in the chat that he'll be okay and that our division is weak. Go screw yourself, RockMan. But also I would say, though, that this is just, I agree. I just think it's tough. And I will say, I assume Hill is going to be even faster when you redo the ratings, and he's going to have higher receptions with what a great receiver he became for the Chiefs this year. I could see him being like a 75, 63 guy, just throwing my 2 cents out there.
Yeah, I mean, next season, or like I guess when the new ratings come out next September, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how these guys get rated again. I kind of want to keep it to OG, max out what the OG ratings were. But somebody like Hill, who's just so fast and who's like so good, I mean, you might have to, bump him up a bit. So
Sure.
We'll see.
Sure.
All right, third place, we got you, Hoff. You came in 14th in the overall percentage. And I guess I'll just leave it to you if you want to talk about your team and maybe some of your thoughts.
Yeah,
your draft.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, obviously, last season I had a tough start. I was really busy. I got really late start to the season. I lost my first 6 games, I think, yeah. And honestly, I just literally, a lot of it was rust. Some of it was some bad breaks and what have you. Didn't really know how to play with Dak. Had a terrible season with Dak and what have you. But I think that, and the ROM was kind of foreign to me because I didn't do any scrimming. This season, I honestly, looking back, I wasn't sure if I should have gone Bell, but to me, he was the best value on the board because I think I was 1 pick after all the good QBs went, and I didn't want to go defense first. So I took Bell, the best running back. Not sure if it's going to be good or bad. The QB roulette I played, honestly, I probably played it a little too long. I would have liked the 44-44 guy, but at that point, I'm thinking to myself, is 44-44 really different than 44-38? What's not on here as key players is that I'm probably going to use, the heist Brock Osweiler as my primary QB and not Manning, just because of the PS and PC. So just food for thought on that. But I think Bell opened up my passing game a little bit, and getting Devontae Adams in round 4 or 5, whatever that was pretty big for me. Obviously Rudolph came with the offensive line. On D, Talib was the best available at the time when I took it. Johnson is just a drone, so it's going to be the Talib and TJ Watt show. Also not on here, which I'm very surprised, is that I have the Rams defensive line, which which has Aaron Donald on it, which is going to wreak havoc, as well as I forgot, I don't know how to say his first name, but Sue, from also the 69 HP guy. So I mean, I'm definitely going to pop some lines. I'm going to have 4 or 3 out of 5 guys being 63 HP or higher. So I think that'll help. But it's a tough division. I mean, RockMan and I usually have good games, and we split Usually he has my number. We haven't been in the same division. I'm happy about that. But so we'll probably split, even though I swept him last season. And then Tecmo Bow is really tough, and then Prime is tough. And so Prime and I usually have good games, and we kind of split. But he's had my number a little bit. So I'd say that this team is okay. It probably warrants Brewdog's rating. But I think I really reached or didn't reach on the Rams DL. I think in pick round. I think it was round 2 or round 3. I don't regret it because I want to see what Donald can do on offensive line. And I know Tecmo Bow, specifically the best player in our division, has a weaker offensive line. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, Brewdog is saying 6 MS plus 31 PS is death, and I agree with him. I'm not going to actually have Eli as my starter. So this is not going to, just so everyone talking smack in the chat right now, Eli Manning is not my starter. Brock Osweiler is my starter at 13 MS, 44 PS, 38 PC, which isn't great, but you know what? One hashtag word, Jack effing Trudeau. I don't want to swear because I get yelled at by people, so just saying.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that was an omission on my part, leaving out probably one of the most important aspects, which is the Rams DL. But I mean, yeah, Aaron Donald is a stud. He's going to wreak havoc. He has 31 interception. You can play nickel with him. And I think you have a good all-around defense. But I think the third place finish is really more about the division and who's in there. But I think, your team's going to be fighting for a playoff spot. I think, maybe for the last wild card spot, I think that's where you're probably looking at. And if you can make it work with the quarterback, I mean, I think that's a big thing. But having Le'Veon Bell, I think, is going to help you. I'm not sure who you had in the season with Jack Trudeau. I think it might have been Meggett, Dave Meggett, I think, at running back.
I did. I had Meggett going 56. He was 56.50. So obviously he's a little. I mean, Devontae Adams is a little slower, but if I'm behind in the game, you and I both know Le'Veon Bell is going to wide receiver. So we're fine. It's gonna be interesting. It's all just gonna be really interesting to see how I play when I actually really buckle down and get some games in consecutively instead of just trying to cram them all in and what have you. So it's gonna be interesting to see how I do this season I'm not saying I didn't care, but when I actually have time to dedicate more effort to it. And I'm kind of offended, by the way, that you said. I mean, I know Tadeos' streams are entertaining, and I know I've been kind of lacking lately, but I like to think my streams are good too. And obviously, if you guys who are listening have never seen Tadeos and I play each other, granted, last time we played, we didn't stream it because we had issues or whatever, but we still talked. We talk in our streams and talk a lot of smack to each other.
Yeah, they are great. I think those are one of the fun listens, having both of you guys simultaneously. It's pretty cool to hear and watch. So anyway, second place, your world champion Atlanta Falcons. So Prime, I got finishing in second place. Prime went to the well again with his quarterback. He got Big Ben Roethlisberger, who is similar to Andrew Luck, except the MS is only 13. But he got his quarterback. He got his 2 receivers. It's almost a similar team he put together last season, with the one downgrade in running back with Joe Mixon. He had Adrian Peterson last season at 56 MS. But offensively, it's pretty much the same type of team. On defense, though, he actually has a better defense than he did last season, in my opinion. Poyer is a solid, manable guy, a little slow, but I think he's manageable. Jerry Hughes, a linebacker, and Nick Perry should give him some flexibility, especially with Perry in the nickel. So defensively, it's not great, but I think he's skilled enough where I think he's going to do well with them. He's the champion for a reason, and I think offensively is really where his bread and butter is, and I think he has the offense to really make him compete for the division. He did come in 16th out of 20 in the overall rating, and if you know Prime, he doesn't like to draft great teams. He likes to draft balanced teams, almost as a challenge, I think. So we'll see. I mean, if he does, repeat, or if he comes close to winning the division again, it'll be quite the feat, because I think this team, is up his alley, but I think he might struggle a little bit with Tecmo Bow.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with you. This team is not, in my opinion, is not that good. And it's when you just look at the teams that were in the silver division, and you even look at my team or Prime's team or whoever else's team, it's just this team doesn't compare. And this team reminds me of exactly what you said back when Prime first came into HSTL and he started doing well in the West when there were three really good guys out there and then whoever else was thrown in. Um, I I really think that this team mimics all of those teams that Prime drafted to be average on purpose. I definitely think you were spot on with that. If anyone can make it work, it's Prime. He has some cross field passing that I don't think anyone can do on a regular basis besides him. And he likes to fall in love with his QB that he does well with, which is basically just, to me, this is pretty much Boomer Esiason with a little less speed. I think maybe Boomer Esiason is 69 PS, but regardless, though, I think this is a Prime team. I just don't. Obviously, the rating from BrewDog won't reflect that, but you gotta give Prime respect, and we'll kind of see how it goes. But I mean, his defense is in trouble. I don't care what anyone says. He had Stinson. He didn't like Stinson in HSTL. Stinson's slow, and his fastest guy is as slow as Stinson. So he's going to have some issues on defense, I think, in stopping people, to be honest with you. So we'll see how this goes. I think my team is better than this team personally, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, and for those that joined late, so in the beginning of the stream, I mentioned that there is a $50 Prime bounty this season. Again, if you knock him out of the playoffs, you earn that $50. And if he does not make the playoffs, then the team that beats him by the biggest margin of victory in the regular season will win that. So run it up against them if you want. Prime can handle it. I think Prime would probably have some nice, funny comments in the Discord channel if folks try to run up on him. But have some fun with it, and we'll see if he can handle the bullseye.
So we've got a Nerm sighting by the way in our stream chat right now and watching this, and he actually says he likes RockMan's team the most, which I don't know about
Really?
the most about it. I will say though with that bounty that if he doesn't make the playoffs, you might want to consider giving it to a division guy if one of the division guys sweep him, because then they have 2 wins against them. Just food for thought on that. But anyway, because I mean I feel bad running up the score against anybody. I just think it's bad juju.
Yeah, and that all plays into this whole thing, really just making it interesting to see if folks are going to try to do that or not. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
All right. No surprise here. Tecmo Bow, who's been one of the top players in online for probably a good year and a half now. He's always up there in championships. He had a bad season last year. He took the Cam Newton challenge and failed pretty miserably. But Tecmo Bow is a great player. He drafted his quarterback in Jared Goff, who's sort of like a Phil Simms clone on this ROM. He got a 56 MS running back. He got solid receivers in Gordon and Jordy Nelson. So offensively, I think he just has a top-notch offense. On defense, he took CJ Mosley, I want to say in round 3, who is a 50 RP with 44 interceptions. So he's a really good linebacker that can play in the nickel and also be like the main man defender. He stole Rashad Jones, I think it was round 4, who was pretty late in the draft, who's a good manable guy to have. And then another linebacker, Anthony Hitchens, who's also has some speed. So he came out in second place in the overall ratings from BrewDog. And I think with his skill and this team, I think he's really, the team to beat in gold.
Do you know what his offensive line is? I mean, key note here, his offensive line is one of the worst. I believe he has one of the bottom 4 offensive lines, so that's a key point with some of the people he's playing. I think that could come back to haunt him a tiny bit. Just food for thought on that. I do think this team is beastly. I wish he had a 50 RP DB. That would make me feel even better about it. Well, I still think it's a beastly team. I think that could hurt because if he's manning Mosley a lot, he could be susceptible to burn routes a little bit. Because obviously the linebacker won't be able to get back there. So I'd say, if there's only one critique of this team, it's the fact he doesn't have a faster DB. But I would say that this is a great team. So I would agree with that, and especially if you couple it with his ability, he'll be just fine. Plus, Tecmo Bow is actually an underrated tapper. He's not in the high teens like everyone else, but he's mid-teens, and so I think people forget that.
Yeah, his offense is going to be just too tough to stop. You really can't. It's almost like pick your poison. You call run, he's going to carve you up with the passing game and vice versa with the tapping ability. So, and I think he's good enough on defense where he can make Mosley work. Maybe against a team like Prime, who's good with the quick passing, might give him trouble. with a slower DB and then maybe with May and the linebacker. But, I think I like Tecmo Bow's team better. So we'll see.
I think that Tecmo Bow, he either had reasons for a season in HSTL, or I think it was Clifton, where that's all he had was Clifton. And I think he had there was a season we did full position groups, and maybe he had the Colts DBs. And I'll tell you, man, he killed it with. I think it was Clifton. I think so. Clifton is basically slow, kind of Mosley, except slower with a tick more interception. And I think he killed it that season. So if anyone can do it, it's definitely Tecmo Bow.
Yeah, he's a great player. So I think I have to go with him to win the division. So to recap, I have Bo coming in first with Prime in second. Then I got you Hoff in third, and then RockMan and Zur rounding out final standings. All right, now the cream of the crop. Let's get to the Platinum division. So we got Brewdog, we got Joey Gatt, we got Nas, and we got a new member, Randy Wags, who's joining us this season as well as myself. Wags is not surprisingly in this division. He's been a great player, so it's nice to have him up here with us to kind of battle out with some of the top players in the league, plus me. So I don't consider myself a top player, and which is why I put myself in last place. So I love fast quarterbacks, and Cam Newton was a guy that I wanted last season, and he won a few picks before my pick. So when it came to me, there really wasn't much value that I saw out there. So I decided to go with him. And I almost have the entire Carolina offense. I have Cam, I got McCaffrey, and then Funchess at receiver. I would have liked to have more speed at receiver to help with Cam's passing speed. But in past seasons that I've had, like in HSTL, I've had Vinny a couple times. I've had some of the lower passing speed guys. I have Rosenbach this year. I did fine with having a little bit slower receiver with it. So we'll see. I'll probably be running a lot more with Cam than I did with Vinny. So I'm not expecting to throw the ball too much. I got to play discipline, especially in this division. On defense, my main guy was Deion Jones, who's kind of like Kyle Clifton, a little bit more hitting power. But it's really, I have a lot of speed, like slower 44 RP guys, but solid drones. So I think my defensive speed is going to be fine. I just don't think I'll get a lot of turnovers. Josh Norman was one of the drone picks that I took with 63 interception, who was 38 RP. But if he goes into good, then I think I can have somebody who can man. So overall, it came out 10th place in Brewdog's ratings. But I'm not going to pick myself to finish higher than last place. I'll never do that. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. It's going to be all discipline for you and what you can do. I think you're going to end up putting McCaffrey at wide receiver when you're behind for your pass game and just kind of, bail out on passing or just kind of like sell out on passing because you can still scramble when you do that. You are one of the masters. You and Viking Well were probably two of the best two linebacker defense people I've ever seen. So I think you'll be fine with that. And then, I mean, as you already said, I kind of wish you had a faster DB, but I think that I wish Jones was a 50 RP guy instead of a 44. I think that might hurt you a tiny bit. But, I mean, it's a pretty good team, and I think if anyone can make it work, it's you. I think you sell yourself short. You're better than you give yourself credit for, clearly. But, I mean, I understand why you did it, but I definitely think you're not going 5-9. So,
yeah, we'll see how it goes. So coming up next, we got Randy Wags. So he has Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, who's, pretty terrible outside of 31 MS. So it'll be interesting to see how Randy handles that. He has 38 PS. I mean, that's not going to help with the 31 PC. He's probably going to be scrambling a ton. But he did get Fournette and Carlos Hyde, who came as a package. So he got kind of two good, running back options. He probably put Hyde at tight end. I think he has like 44 HP, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, though. And then Allen Robinson, who's, 50 MS. So his offense, I mean, is going to be based off his tapping ability and his running game. And we all know Wags is a great runner. He likes to ISO his opponents. And I think he has a team that's built for that. So it'll be interesting to see how he does with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, if he's going to throw the ball much. I doubt it. I expect a lot of scrambles. On defense, he took Micah Hyde, I think, with the back-to-back picks. Micah Hyde actually went, I think, like 10th or 11th overall last draft. So getting him where he did was really a steal there. And then he has EJ Gaines as a solid drone, and then Danielle Hunter, who's a really good linebacker. He has 19 interceptions, so you won't be able to man him. But he'll be good for busting in against weak O lines. Now he came in at 18th overall in Brewdog's ratings at 38%. So Wags is a great player. So I'm expecting him to do well in this division. So I haven't finished fourth.
Yeah, I'd say that. I mean, you guys are in trouble just because. I mean, Gats is doing the whole online I don't tap thing, which good for him because obviously he can still crush people without tapping. And then you and Brew don't tap well. And honestly, knowing what I know of Randy Wags, because every time I play him, it happens. He'll literally just ISO run you nonstop and just out tap you every single time. Like I've had games against him where he's run for like 40 times for like 300 yards because he'll just do it nonstop. Maybe it was 30 times for like through 250 or something like that. Because he'll just run nonstop ISO runs, whatever, just because he knows he can out tap you. People forget that he had a season where in HSTL where I think Tom Zach was his QB, or something, and he made the playoffs. And that was the season I made. That was the season that I lost to Tecmo Bowl in the AFC Championship game, I believe, where I think Tom Zach was his QB and he still did really well. So obviously, yeah, he's going to be running a ton. He'll be scrambling when he calls pass. But I think people are going to probably call run against him. But it's going to be interesting. But his tapping ability, because he's by far the best tapper in the division, maybe unless Gats actually decides to tap, is going to win him some games against you guys, provided he doesn't fall behind. Because as Brewdog said in the chat, that if he falls behind, he's in trouble with that PC and Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, I forgot about that season he had with Tom Zach. I think it was the season where we drafted the full position groups, I think. And, he did great with that. And having the running back, I think, is going to help him, open up that passing game.
I'd agree. Absolutely. He is. I mean, I just want to, I can't reiterate it enough. He is so disciplined when it comes to these running teams with crappy QBs because he'll just load up and you'll start calling run against him and then he'll pass and he'll just always find the right guy. He makes safe passes. He doesn't gamble with his passing. I mean, he's one of the best bad QB passers I've probably seen. So I think he's going to. I think that potentially, I haven't seen the other teams in here, but I think potentially he could be finishing higher than fourth if he really sticks to his guns and runs all over you guys.
Yeah, he's a great player, and I think he's really going to have his way with us in the running game. So I think he's going to do fine. All right. Third place, I got the Super Bowl runner-up, Brewdog. So Brew came in 7th place in his overall ratings. He has Tannehill at quarterback, who now looking back, I mean, I think when I was talking to him on Discord, he was kind of pissed off that, the 44 Andy Dalton went like 4 rounds later. I think he thought that maybe the quarterbacks were going to go quickly, after those two 44s went in the second round. He took him in late round 3, which might have been a reach now considering Dalton went, 4 rounds later. But he got LaShawn McCoy, 56 MS. He has 2 50 MS receivers. That's going to help him. He took Eric Berry and Justin Houston as his first pick. Now, that was one of the good tandems that I had put together for this draft. Berry's kind of like a Ronnie Lott clone with less HP. And then he got the solid linebacker, 50 RP, and Justin Houston. And then he also got Hayden and Bostic at linebacker to help, round out his drone. So I played him twice in scrims, and he kicked my ass both times. So, he's just so skilled. I think he's going to be fine the way he is. With this team, it's a lot different than what he had in season 1, where it was more of a back team. This season, he's going to try to run the ball a little bit more. With the 2 guys I had ahead of him, it was tough, and I went with him in third, just given that the other 2 guys and their teams. So, what do you think?
I'd agree. I think this team's really good in a sense that his defense is right up there. I mean, obviously, Bostic is great for the nickel. Houston can do some run prevention. Hayden, he can be manned in a pinch if need be, like if Barry goes in bad and Hayden goes in good, or even Hayden's in average, whatever. So I would say that he definitely has some depth. It's going to be interesting. I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't watched Brew play. I didn't really watch any of his games, so I don't know, his not saying he doesn't have a skill set because obviously he's good, but I don't know like what his style has been. I know he's a very good back and beer. Like I know he was doing that with Beckham and whoever his QB was. So I'm curious to see how that works this season, where it's not going to be in his arsenal as much. It could be, but not as much. I personally had problems with the 38 PS in HSTL when I had Mark Wilson trying to bomb it to Horizon. So I'm kind of curious to see how this all works out with him. But I definitely think he's going to have overthrows, specifically with Tannehill, and he'll have to be mindful of the scrambles with him. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Also, that he's not gonna he might, unless for fumbles, he's probably not gonna get a lot of turnovers in the secondary with low interceptions. So it's a balanced team, and honestly, it's kind of like a prime team. This almost looks a little bit like a prime team, to be honest with you, in my opinion. So it's curious to see how he does.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Tannehill had a little bit more pass speed, I think it's exactly like a prime team. But I agree. I think it's exactly how Prime builds his squads. And I think when I played BrewDog, it was tough to score. I had Cam Newton trying to scramble, but he was in my head all game. So I think he's just a great player that he's great at play calls. And like you said, his depth at defense, the fact that he can kind of mix up who he uses, and that's what he did against me in scrims. Like he wouldn't use Barry every single time. He used Hayden on occasion, depending on the formation, and the same thing with his linebackers. So, he's a very strategic player that he knows what to do with his defense, and I think he'll be able to get stops. So I really like his team. All right, second place, Joey Gatt. I always told myself if I ever do a prediction show or when I do my predictions, never ever pick against Joey Gatz, and it's pretty stupid too. But Gatz has been a little bit preoccupied with things, and he really has been as focused as he has been typically. I think he missed at least 3 or 4 picks in this draft with auto picks. So I'm not sure where his head is at as far as playing. So with that reason, I put him in second place. Just because he's not has been typically available as he has been. And looking at his team, I mean, he came in 9th place in Brewdog's ratings. Nick Foles was a 2nd-round pick, which is a 44 PS, 50 PC guy. Which, I mean, when you think about it, like from an HSTL perspective, like, that type of quarterback usually goes late round 2, maybe early round 3. Lately, but he took him pretty early in the 2nd round. He wanted his quarterback, but he has LeGarrette Blount, who's 44 MS, 94 HP. And then Sammy Watkins on offense. Really, that's all he has on offense. He does have a 94 HP running back, fullback. I'm not sure how fast his offensive line is, so I'm not sure if that's going to be an advantage for him in the kick return game. On defense, so his 1st-round pick was Richard Sherman and Reuben Foster, who was one of the nice combos that were on the ROM. Sherman is 44 RP, 69 INT, so he's not as fast as you would like to be. But I mean, Gatz is Gatz, and he's with a 69 interception guy. He's going to JJ intercept a lot of people just because of his skill. And then really that's all he has. I mean, Foster is 50 RP, but he's 38 HP. So he's not really that high of a hitting power guy. And then Keanu Neal, who's a drone DB, who's 69 HP. So, I mean, Gatz doesn't need a lot on either side of the ball. I mean, looking at his team, I mean, it's not a typical Gatz team from what I've seen, but given where he is, mentally, I think, with the way, with his availability, I think, it might drop him into 2nd place this season. I'm hoping he comes around and does well. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
What do you
this
think?
this team is not good, in my opinion. He doesn't have enough speed on D. The 44 RP is not enough for a one-man show. I think he might be Manning Foster a little bit, which can make him susceptible to the pass. Obviously, you have to factor in here too that Gatz doesn't tap unless he has changed that mentality. The key point with LeGarrette Blount too is because Gatz doesn't tap, having Blount might be helpful for him because when he's using him as his primary running back, he might be popcorning guys that he necessarily wouldn't have been able to get away from because he's not tapping. So interesting to see how that plays out for Gatz and his run game this season. I definitely think Gatz can make this offense work because he's surgical on offense. So he'll be fine offensively. He'll take advantage of, Sammy Watkins and his speed, even though I couldn't when I had him. I had a tough season with Sammy and Dak Prescott. As you guys saw in my playoff game, if you watched, I used pretty much Kelsey the whole time. But I would say that I'd say Gats can make this work, and so that that's why this team is ranked ninth. I have no idea why Bruce Brew rating system ranks his team ninth, but it's interesting. As like you said, I would never ever pick Gats to not win, so I'm kind of curious to see the team we're gonna see next because this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So who I have winning the division is Nas. Now, when you look at his team, it doesn't seem like it's a great team, but I think really having Matthew Stafford, who's 81 PS, 50 PC guy, yeah, the PC is kind of low, but Nas with his passing, an 81 PS guy, to me, it just seems like it's just lethal. I mean, he's not the type that back and beats it. He really has timing patterns. He's just so skilled in passing. I just think having a guy like Stafford with Nas is really pretty deadly. With the 50 MS running back, that helps open it up a little bit. Deshaun Jackson is speedy. He does have low reception, but he does have the speed for burn routes. So offensively, I mean, I think Nas is going to score with no problems. And I mean, and Nas has what he needs on defense. He has his 50 RP DB guy in Desmond Trufant at DB2, who's going to be fine. He has a solid linebacker. Maybe it would be nice to have a little bit more speed, to have it for LB4. But I think Nas has all the pieces that he needs to succeed. And I think having Stafford really is what, kind of set me over. I think it's going to be fun to see him, what he does with a guy like Stafford. For me personally, he's probably going to carve my defense up with my speed on defense. And even with Gats' speed on defense, being fairly slow, Stafford's passing speed is just going to be a difference maker. He came in 11th in Brewdog's ratings, but I think really the owner really what drove this rating for me.
Yeah, I would say that it's going to be interesting because Nas didn't used to be, if I remember correctly, a high PS guy. And then he took Tolliver one season in HSTL because he lost the QB roulette and it made it work and went 10-6 that season when he never used a high PS QB before. So it's interesting to see now that he's doing the high PS thing. I'd say I wish he had a faster running back. I wish he had a 56 or higher. I think that would play better with the PS, to be honest with you, although 50 PC is great. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. I mean, obviously Nas' skill is, top notch. I think this is probably the best team in the division, in my opinion, from an overall balance standpoint, in the sense of like you have like a stud or quasi stud, or exactly what you need at every key position that he needs it. So it's going to be, I can see why you picked him to win. I'm going to be honest with you, though. I'm still not picking against Gats. I don't care what his team is. I've seen Gats win with worse teams. So, but I mean, I can definitely see why you did what you did. I have a mental block on picking against Gats.
Yeah, it's so tough to do that. I just think Nas has been playing tremendous, for the last couple of years, really. But, I thought it'd be nice to freshen it up a little bit and take somebody else for a change. So we'll see. So just to recap, I got Nas winning the division, Gats in second, Brew in third. I think those are the three playoff teams coming out. Wags and then myself, I think, rounding out the division. So
that's pretty much it. Isn't it crazy to see? I mean, now that you've gone through the whole draft, it just amazes me how good those teams in the silver division are. They're just so good. Aside from Tecmo Bo and his division, his team and my division, those silver division teams are just ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I think they benefited, I think, a bit having the top half of the draft, especially. And I totally agree. I think they have the best teams on paper. So it'll be nice, to watch to see how that division shakes out, given those three teams that have really, really great players on them. So we'll see.
Do you want to talk at all about the draft format in HSTL? I don't know how many non-HSTLers we have in the chat, or do you just want to call it a night and be done with it? We're about an hour and a half in.
I think I'm done with 2K, and if you want to go into some HSTL for a couple minutes, I mean, I have no problem.
Yes.
With that.
So basically, I'm not sure if anyone's watching. I'm actually, I could look at the list, but I'm just being lazy. I'm not sure if anyone watching is not in HSTL, but if you aren't, we have a draft format we're doing this season. We actually just started rolling the draft today. We had two people who told me they wanted to leave that stayed. One was vocal about it, and one wasn't. And I'm not going to out the other one that wasn't. But basically, Hugh Millen was going to leave, and then he stuck around, just made the playoffs, which is great. and then whatever. So we got a draft format. We haven't run in 10 seasons. Believe it or not, we done like 10 seasons ago was like only a year and a half ago. It's just crazy how fast we play the seasons now. So, but basically the whole QB1, maybe I should put it up. Nah, I don't care. QB1, is by itself, and then the tandems are just nuts. I mean, we could probably just skip to the ridiculous tandems. Aside from the grip smoke, giving him some props because he came up with the offensive side of this tandem of this draft, where he says running back 1 or 2 twice, so that way you're not tied to picking a running back 1 and a running back 2. You can actually just go one or the other twice. And same thing with wide receiver, but the defensive tandems. I mean, it's interesting. Last time we did this draft, the normal people went first, like your Warren Moons, your Barry Sanders, your Bo Jacksons, your QB Eagles, your QB Bills, and so on and so forth. And then the super defensive tandems started getting taken, I think, in like pick 8 or 9. And already, if you guys haven't looked, because you've been listening to this or whatever, the casual T with the number 1 overall pick went with QB Eagles, which smart. But then the next 2 picks were already defensive picks, where Madtown picked the Cincy tandem with the Cincy OL with Fulcher and Francis, and Barletti did Dolman, Millard, Browner. Which shame on Barletti. He should have taken, in my opinion, the Minnesota offensive line, but whatever. That's just my 2 cents. But what do you think of the draft format we're doing this season?
No, I love it. I think I've been telling you, I think for a few seasons now, I used to love the backup format where there's backups, like San Francisco and Detroit backups are always like interesting picks. I think I was in the season 39 draft where we ran this. It's just a fun little wrinkle to the draft. I think the last few have been very similar, where we're just pairing, different, linebackers and DBs, or was it receivers and running backs. But I think it's a nice change. I think it gives the teams at the top a chance to really build their defense with 1 pick. I mean, essentially you can take a defense with your first pick and then not worry about it until the later rounds. So, I think it's going to be a fun format. I'm not sure how the teams fared, I guess, in those seasons, if like the top players maybe struggled in comparison to the normal. But I think it's good to break it up a little bit, especially with like these past few seasons being, pretty similar in structure.
Yeah, I don't like the traditional backup drafts, simply because, like, for example, the San Francisco backups give you your QB Steve Young and 56 PS, 44 PC with 25 MS. You've got your 244 MS running backs, and you've got a 44-50 wide receiver, I believe, just in that pick. So I do kind of like the fact that the backups are split a tiny bit, where it's just like the running back, wide receiver backups, and then you've got your tight ends and your QBs separate, sort of thing. I mean, but I'm always open to doing different stuff. It's just we've done everything aside from assigned tandems, and it's just trying to come up with something new to do.
So in this draft, there's no backups. I mean, maybe I just haven't been paying attention enough.
Well,
it's not true backups.
It's not true backups. You're missing tight end.
Okay.
You're missing tight end 2 and QB 2. It's basically the backups are running back and wide receiver 3 and 4, and then kicker, punter, and then it goes QB. It goes QB 2, tight end 1, tight end 2, together.
Okay, that's cool.
So you and I both know Prime is going to reach really early to get Steve Young with with Brent Jones. I mean Prime was like the pinnacle of getting Steve Young like 5 seasons in a row. So
yeah, but I think he soured him I think he had him maybe 2 seasons ago, and I think he was kind of griping about him in the Discord, saying he wouldn't draft him again. But we'll see if he passes up on that. It's a pretty nice grouping.
Yeah, I think Gatz is saying that our format's weird. I don't think Gatz even remembers playing in this format, but he did. I think he came back before it went back. It's just nice to just give people freedom to literally pick whoever they want in their tandem. I think that while it provides some really stud picks, and yeah, it's top heavy or whatever, but whatever. I think it's good. So I think it's going to be an interesting season. And what do you think is going to happen in the HSTL playoffs? Obviously, I think you're the only playoff game that has happened, and you beat who'd you beat? The MAC?
Yeah, I played the MAC yesterday. Yep.
So you beat the MAC, and I think it's the only playoff game that's done. Dolo doesn't come back from wherever he is traveling to until tomorrow, and then he and Play are going to play tomorrow or Tuesday at the latest. And then I don't know what's happening in the AFC with those playoff games, but no one has contacted me about it. But it's going to be what do you think is going to happen in the rest of the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, the AFC is loaded. I mean, you got Tecmo Bowl, you got Stall Talk and Gats, plus the other teams who are all, strong in their own rights. But I mean, I think Tecmo Bowl has been playing really, really well with his team. I think he went 14-2, if I remember correctly. So, I think he might be the team to beat in the AFC. In the NFC, I mean, I think I play Turbo next, and he has Bo Jackson. So, without great linebackers on my team, it's probably going to be bad news. With his tapping and my linebackers, I think Bo is going to probably tear me up. So we'll see how that goes. And I mean, Nas obviously is the one tough to beat. So, yeah, I mean, I think Tecmo Bowl might be the team to beat this playoffs.
So you think you're calling it Tecmo Bowl is your Super Bowl champion for a second time for HSTL?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up, Hoff. I missed that.
You're saying that you think Tecmo Bowl is going to win the championship for a second time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if I had to pick a team right now, I'd probably pick Tecmo Bowl. I think he's playing the best right now in the league.
Well, then I guess we'll end with that. I don't see any more questions on the chat, and I think we can kind of just keep going here. Are we going to make any picks for? Are we going to do any picks for 2K at all, or are we just going to kind of say like, are we going to do any playoff picks at all? We're going to wait until later in the season.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can get together again, do something later on in the season, maybe halfway through or something, kind of go through.
Well, how many? So you've got your 4 division winners, and then how many wild cards are there?
4. It's 4-4.
So last season, what 3 wild cards came from the gold or the platinum division?
So platinum had 4 teams come out of there, with only Tecmo Bowl was the only one that did not make it, and then gold had 2, and the rest were just single division winners.
Gotcha. It's gonna be so do you see it happening again like that, or do you kind of think it's gonna be more spread out?
I think it'll spread out this year, especially given some of the talent in like we said with silver. I think maybe 2 teams definitely out of that division. I think typically like in ATA back in the day when it was a similar type of format, it was always 1 team coming out of the bottom division. So I think maybe 1 team out of there, 2 out of silver. I think my division in platinum comes with 3, I would say. So that's 3, 5, 6, and then 2, I think, out of gold. So 3, 2, 2, and 1, I think.
I don't see 2 teams coming out of silver because I think they're going to all beat each other up too much. I think potentially it might go 3 platinum, 3 gold, and then 1-1 in my opinion. But we'll see. I mean,
yeah, it'll be fun.
It's just basically like the platinum division. You guys don't have 4 teams come out of it if Tecmo Bowl doesn't have such a bad season because you guys kind of beat up on him a little bit. So it's also going to be interesting too to see what kind of run, because some of those owners in silver, are depending on their team are really good players, and so if you couple their teams with the type of players they are, they could play up to the levels, and it might be interesting to see what silver does against the higher divisions. I think they might have a good run there. So that's where you could envision, or I could envision too, where they could kind of beat up a little bit on the gold and platinum, and maybe have a couple of more teams make it. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And just as a reminder for those that are still on listening, the ROMs are dropping tomorrow, probably tomorrow night. So make sure you get your alignments in. And there's also the War Games qualifying championship game. I know Tecmo Bowl and Arn Cohen were supposed to be playing today or tonight. So I'm hoping that finishes before the season kicks off. I'll probably be streaming that tomorrow night. The winner earns the ticket into the War Games $500 tournament. So ROMs drop tomorrow. Make sure you align. And I want to thank everybody for listening. Thank Hoff for bringing me on, letting me do this. It was fun to talk through some of this stuff. I hope the folks that were watching and listen enjoyed it.
Yeah, man, I had a good time. We got to make a thing about this, and obviously we'll be if you're more than welcome to come on when we do the HSTL season preview, probably in about 2 weeks. So if you're interested in doing that, we can do that. But other than that, until next time, guys, thank you very much. Thank you, War, and I'm looking forward to a season where I don't wait until the last minute to play all my games.
Yeah, okay.
All
Thanks,
right.
Hoff. Have a good one, guys.
Till next time.
Yep.